All right.
Hello, and welcome to Invitation to a Conversation. I'm Pamela Bailey. My guest today is my long-awaited guest, author, consultant, and speaker, Valerie Williams. She has 5 best-selling books: God's Divine Intervention, Sweet Oil from a Broken Vessel, Heart's Desire, Where Are My Manners, her first children's book, and The Flavor of a Woman. That's my favorite. Valerie Williams' life changed forever in 20 minutes on a February afternoon in 1996. She came home to take her husband, the family van, to use for transportation. 20 minutes later, she found herself at the end of a 38 Smith & Wesson, with him threatening to kill himself and her. Valerie Williams' husband would go on to shoot her multiple times. The 3 bullets fired would find their way through her head and twice in her right arm. Her husband was never abusive before. This event, for Valerie Williams, one time of domestic abuse was once too many. Good afternoon, Ms. Williams. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Miss Bailey.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm blessed to have you on and blessed to be in your presence and still have you here on earth. God is a good God. He wanted you to deliver this message and be a champion for women for domestic abuse. So thank you. I hope I don't cry through this interview.
Crying is not allowed. Crying is not allowed.
But yes. So are you a native of Brunswick, Georgia?
I am born and raised in Brunswick. Yes, went to high school, went to college, left for a little while, stayed in Atlanta, and I came back in 1992, I believe.
Okay. Can you just give me a short synopsis of actually how it actually happened on February 1996? Were you, now that you're past it years later, could you go back and reflect to see if there was any signs prior to that day that could have led up to that?
Right. And I did do that, because I think a lot of times, well, what we've been taught is that domestic violence is ongoing. It has to be something that happens to us all the time. It has to be a continual, behavior of continual physical beating. That's what we call domestic violence. That's what we call abuse. And so I went back. I knew he never hit me before. Never was abusive, verbally abusive. You know how some people put you down, you get in an argument and they go for the jugular, not emotionally abusive, which is like just playing mind games, not speaking to you, not talking to you, just the silent treatment. That's abuse. And so, of course, when I saw my name in the paper as a domestic violence victim, I got really upset because that's where my mindset was. People are going to think he's beating me, And so when I really educated myself on it, I went back and was like, well, did I miss something? Did I miss his quietness for being abused? What did I miss? However, it wasn't the normal domestic violence because he had never been abusive. And just me being home, trying to come home to go to work, trying to come home from work at lunchtime, and I was trying to leave to go back out, to go back to work. And I had my girlfriend follow me home because he called and said he needed the van. And Pam, I got there and he was upstairs. I went upstairs, changed shoes, and came back down because she was maybe 5 minutes behind me coming from work. And she blew the horn. So I peeked out the blind and he jumped off the bed and he was like, who is that? And I was like, oh, that's Beverly. I said, don't worry about taking me back. I'm gonna catch a ride with her. We're gonna grab something and go back to work. And he started going downstairs a little in front of me, like, yeah. And I'm like, and I still didn't think anything weird until he got in front of the door. And so when I went to reach for the door, now he kind of pushed my hand down. And so now I'm like, come on, man, I stop playing, because I'm kind of thinking he's joking. And I went to reach the doorknob the second time when he popped me, which it wasn't a pop like a fun pop, it was like a pop. And so then I got serious and got mad. And I was like, look, we don't play like that. Because now I'm getting upset. My girlfriend came to the door and knocked on the door. And he yelled to her, you can leave, I'll take her back to work. And I'm like, don't you leave me? Because husband or no husband,
Yes.
I didn't feel safe with him at that moment. And I couldn't understand, why are you not trying to let me out? And so that's why I make sure when I go and speak and share my story, I tell people that one time, like in that intro, that one time is one time enough. And we have to call it what it is. It's abuse. Him even trying to keep me in the house, that was abuse. And so, I mean, the regular abuse stuff, yes, I went back and looked at it, and I could say, no, he was never abusive. No, he wasn't emotionally abusive. No, he wasn't verbally abusive. But that day, that one time, he was.
And we're going to delve some more into this conversation, but you must let people know that physical abuse is not the only type of domestic violence. You have physical, mental, and emotional, and all of those things, because like you said, some people always define domestic violence as physical abuse, but you have to understand words hurt too. And you have the
Yes.
emotional and mental abuse that goes along underneath that umbrella of domestic violence.
That's right.
I have a lot of questions, and thank you again for coming, but can you give me a short synopsis of what your transition to being a survivor, how that was? How long did that take?
It was a process. Like, I was a survivor when it happened because I lived through it. Okay. But God, it was like something inside of me that I just didn't, I've never accepted survivor. It was like, oh, it's just like I'm existing, like I made it through. And it was never enough for me, And so God told me that I want you to become an overcomer, because an overcomer lives beyond what has happened to them. And then they can take that and use it to help someone else. And I've even talked to a lot of domestic violence organizations, and I just believe that they need to focus more on helping that victim, male or female, become a overcomer instead of a survivor. Because survivor to me sounds like, okay, they made it through it. Because you got so many that's stuck right there. They made it through it. But then what? They're still in their pain. They're still in their, they're hurt. They're still there, although they survived. And I wanted to be a person that could push them along and say, hey, become an overcomer. Don't live out of that experience. Don't live out of that hurt, although you survived it. Because I meet many women that say, I just can't get over it. They survived it, but it's hindering them from walking into overcoming it.
I truly understand that. So that's going to be my new word for anybody or myself going through a situation, because you're saying if you're just surviving, that means you're still walking in that trauma. You're still thinking, feeling, and surviving. But if you overcome it,
come on,
you're not walking in that emotion, those feelings, those memories, but you're not going to never forget it. But you're
not going to ever forget it.
All of that, and then you could go. I like that.
It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but at least because I know so many people I can't do this because this happened to me.
Right.
I can't. I don't want to get in another relationship because this happened to me. That's surviving what you went through, but you want to overcome. You don't want that. You don't want anything of that experience to hinder you from overcoming, because you can. It's not saying you're gonna forget it. I'm not gonna forget. I got 6 bullet holes in my body to remind me every day.
Yes,
You
Lord.
know,
Yes.
I have them. They're there. But the overcoming is just a process, and the overcoming is really you healing. That's what that is. Like you really healing.
How have you been over the years since that day?
It's been a process. It's been a process. But because of my faith, Pam, I was shot in the head. The first bullet went in my head, and it went in here, up here. And it went all the way through my head and came out over here. Okay. It went in here, all the way through my head here, and came out over here. I was shot with a 38 Smith & Wesson, not no 22, a 38. And I had no surgery, no stitches, no bones cracked. I was shot twice in my arm. It went up, broke my clavicle bone here, went through my neck muscle, and came out the back of my neck, out my spine. No surgery for anything. And it rocked my world. Like it just, when I realized that he shot me where he shot me, it's like my whole life just went boom. And all I saw was darkness. And so it was a process for me to even get up in the morning and just face another day. But because I realized that God made death behave for me, and I had faith in that. Like if he made death behave for me, he'll bring me through this, but I still got to go through the process of healing, going through the process of therapy, going through the process of going to the courts, going to see a therapist, taking my children to see a therapist, not having a home to live in, having to be on Section 8, having to get food stamps, having to be in a life that I never thought I would be.
Yes.
But because my faith that God allowed a bullet to go through my head was what really kept me moving, even when I didn't want to. You know, even when I didn't feel like sometimes you just don't feel, you just like, I don't even feel like trying. I don't even feel like understanding. I don't even feel like healing. I don't feel like why I gotta try. This happened to me. Somebody did this to me. I didn't do this to myself. But every day.
And look how good God is. You said you had no surgery. How many people can say that they got shot in their head and it hit no major arteries, eyes, nose, cheeks, or nothing? It came straight out. That's nothing but God. He used you. You're an angel on earth. Thank you for that testimony.
He has. Yes, he really has.
Testimony. Why did you decide to become an advocate for domestic violence? How did that become about?
I wrote my first book, God's Divine Intervention, and I wrote that in the midst of me hurting. I wanted to write it. God kept telling me to write the book, and I just kept putting it off because when I looked at my life, I'm like, what am I writing about? You know, am I going to write about pain? Because that's what I'm feeling. Am I going to write about being broken? Because that's what I am. And I don't have anything. So what I got to write a book? What I got to tell somebody? And so I made a bet with God. I was like, if you heal me, if you restore my house and restore my hand and restore restore everything I lost, then I'll write a book. Because I felt now I got something to talk about. And God was like, no, you're going to write about this while you're hurting. Because somebody's going to pick this book up one day and they're going to feel the pain. They're going to be with you on that sofa. They're going to know that fear, but they're going to know how I showed up. They're going to know my power.
How did it get out where you became an international domestic violence advocate? How did that become?
Just that book, my book, and just people reading it and taking it somewhere, and then somebody else would read it, and they just passed it along. And then with me advocating for women, because I realized there's a lot of women and victims in general that go through and they have nobody there to speak up for them because they're so full of fear, they don't know how to speak up. And so that's why I was like, I'm going to become that voice. I'm going to become that voice and let them know and try to prevent it and teach them hey, this is what you need to know before you even get in a relationship. See, that's how I'm advocating. I want to advocate before, not after they done got shot, and not after they done got stabbed, not after. I'm trying to advocate before. Listen, this is what you do. This is what you need to know. This is not cute. Jealousy is not love.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
advocating those things.
Yes.
You know, come on, like seriously,
Yes.
love yourself.
Yes.
You know, you are worth more than that.
That does not mean love. Say it again. That does
It
not
does
mean
not.
love.
It
And
does
that
not
apology does not mean it, you know. Yes.
exactly. You make them, you know, own up to their behavior and what they did. Make them be responsible and be accountable. You know when you know what you're saying to hurt somebody. You know when you lift your hand up to slap somebody in their face. You know. So stop taking those excuses and like you're gonna love him so much till you change him, or you're gonna he's never been loved before, and it's your responsibility to just love him and make him this person that you have in your mind.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to advocate before that. I'm trying to advocate for the victim, whoever the victim is, male or female. Look, I'm advocating for you to love yourself first.
Yes.
That's what you do, because you deserve it.
What was the first city, state, person, or organization that reached out to you from outside of Brunswick? Do you remember?
I believe it was I think it was Kings Bay. They have a family and fleet services. And I think I went down there and I was their keynote speaker for the base. Mm-hmm.
How did you begin your nonprofit for domestic violence? You are a brand name right now. How did you become?
Right.
You started as a nonprofit, and then an entrepreneur. Now you're a whole brand name. Every month or every other month, I see you come out with something new. We'll get into that later. But how did you begin your nonprofit?
Like I've been doing the work for years. I've been traveling and speaking and doing the work and sitting on boards and different things like that. And I just, since COVID, got my 501c3 because the vision just kept growing and growing. And I was like paying everything out of my pocket, like events and stuff. And it's just got to the point where I just can't afford it. And so I said, Lord, this mission is great. And so we need funding. We need donations. We need to be able to get donations from our community and anybody else that want to donate. Because I'm now Love Smart. My nonprofit is called Love Smart. And I'm working with teens, young people, and trying to prevent dating abuse and dating violence and bring awareness to them. And so I just became a 501c3 last year while in COVID. And and so far we got one grant, which we're grateful for, but we have a few more to go after because we need resources, we need pamphlets, you need informational, resources to give out. We need a center, we need an office building for them to be able to come to.
Yes.
Because I'm going meeting these kids in my car. And I'm just like, so I'm praying, Lord, anybody got a building that we can rent or something? Because we need it. And the thing is, Pam, the young people will come. They reach out to me like they want to know what's going to keep them safe.
Now we have now I'm always on a time frame. We have an hour, but we're hitting our first 30 minutes.
Okay.
So what hit your spirit for you to name it Love Smart? How was that title birthed?
It was birthed because so many of us, we react by our feelings. Everything is about feelings. And when our feelings get involved, sometimes we don't know how to manage them and we just do. Love Smart is once you get the tools, once you get educated, once you know what the signs are, once you know what to look for, when somebody's being abusive to you, whether they admit it or not. You know what verbal abuse is, and so Love Smart is like, okay, I like that person. Wait a minute now, Ms. Williams said that was a sign. So I'm going to use my head instead of just following my heart. So I tell the kids, I say, it's just like when you on the basketball, if you're on a basketball team and you go out to play, coach give y'all a play, y'all go out there and play. Y'all mess up, what the coach say? Get your head in the game. Get your head in the game. He don't say get your heart in the game. Right. He said get your head in the game. Because there's rules, there's things that you should already know. Once you got your head in the game, now let your head navigate. And so that's why it's called Love Smart. We all need to love smart, know what healthy relationships are. I do it for adults too. And I love smart.
And I understand it. When I'm reading it, when you read it, it's different. But when you say it, you're telling people to love smart. When you pick someone, even if you've been in that relationship for a long time and something just occurred and you said, well, we've been together for 10 years and this never happened before. You got to love smart, and get on board. And that's one thing. And that's one thing I'm nervous about. Well, I used to be nervous about, or for any young adult, is when they're in high school and they get that love connection and they think they're in love and they define their love, because love has all types of different definitions of why people are together. And if they never, and if that's their first person that they're with from middle school to high school to college, then, I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but some people, they need to branch out and see the world and date other people. I tell a lot of young folks that, your teen years, that's for you to navigate and date different people so you can understand what type of person you want to end up with and settle down with, instead of doing it so fast. Is there another book in the near future? I'm sure it is.
There is. There is, I've been working on my journals. I did a couple of journals, father-son journal, mother-daughter journal, because I believe that the family needs to be healthy. And not just intimate relationships, but our families. And we need to work on that. We need to be intentional about sitting down with our children, having that bond, having those conversations, talking about love. I know some parents told me that they don't even ask them a question who they're dating. They don't know what their children are doing. And I'm like, you have to know, because you don't understand that your child is going through something when they get to school. And I'm telling you what I know, they get to school, they have all this pressure about they have to be this perfect girlfriend, this perfect boyfriend. They being text, 25 times a day. They got to be at a certain spot. They can't talk to anybody. All this stuff is going on at school. And the parents don't even know, because, not that they don't care. It's just, everybody likes, but I did the journal so they could take time to be intentional. The father-son journal is called King Me, and it's every father has a responsibility of kinging his son. And when we say king, that means it's your responsibility to teach him discipline, leadership. It's your responsibility. Mother-daughter journal is called Just Between Us Girls. And I've done we've done some Love Smart notebooks. That's what you've seen lately, because I've gotten so many calls in the month of October, just young preteens wanting to depressed. I had one that didn't want to live. She was just like, she don't know why she's here. And I gave her those journals and trying to teach them to journal, learn how to write their emotions out if they're not going to talk about it. So yeah, I have a couple more things coming out.
Okay. Do you have a title? Has God given you a title yet for your next book?
Well, I have two. One of them is called In His Shadows. And that's about first ladies. In his shadow. Yeah. Okay. Even though, because she really is, to me, the first lady is really the light, but she's always in the shadow. That's why he has a shadow.
I have a 4-part question, and we might have already picked this in the beginning of the conversation, but I'd like you to first define domestic violence, name the different forms of domestic violence, what's the signs of domestic violence, and what are the triggers to domestic violence?
Okay, domestic violence, that's is really behaviors that end up in intimate partners. They say domestic violence for intimate partners that like cohabitate, live together. okay, and marry. And then we say dating violence, and that's just those inappropriate behaviors. Those types are, we have physical, which is actual physical hitting, picking up a weapon, a broomstick, that's physical, and hitting you with it. Verbal is just what it says, is verbal abuse. An example of that is, you better be glad I want you. Don't nobody else want you. Things like that, things that just cut you to the core. And
can I ask you a question on that last one? That last one you said,
the verbal.
When a female or a man says to their spouse or their partner, don't nobody else want you, then why do you want me?
Right.
Then why do you want me?
Right. But it makes you think, and they normally are saying, well, don't nobody else want you because I'm the only one can put up with you. I'm the only one can deal with you, you know, and to be, believe it or not, men are more abused by women verbally. Yeah, men, a woman will come, oh, you ain't no man, you half of a man anyway.
That masculinity.
Right. And so a woman, I mean, she'll spew it out. She'll spew it out. A man normally does it because he's trying to make you feel like you're only worthy to him. You're only good enough for him. You're good enough for me, but yet you have all these faults, so nobody else is not gonna want you. So it's to make you stay there. It's to intimidate you. We have financial abuse now, where you only get so much money, you know, to go get groceries. You don't get anything for yourself. I want to know, give me your paycheck when you get home. Yeah. Now we also have social media, technology abuse, because I can keep up with you wherever you are. I don't have to be with you. I can text you. I can make you FaceTime me. I don't have to keep up with you. So it's abuse. Now our teens get that more than, you know, our adults. We had one young lady had 3,000 texts in a month from her boyfriend, who and she thought he loved her. He just trying to keep up with her. No, he's being abusive.
3,000?
3,000
texts
in a month. He just cared about her. She thought it was love. She just thought her boyfriend was crazy about her. And so we were like, read the text. Where are you? What are you doing? She was at dinner with her parents. FaceTime me and prove to me you at dinner with your parents. That is abuse.
Yes. We used to call it possession. We used to call
it possession.
Girlfriends used to think that's so cute and everything.
Yeah,
but it's a different light. Yes,
right. And so, and all those are the triggers, because when you do it and then you learn this stuff and you trying to say, okay, and that's why I tell young women, anybody really, set boundaries for yourself before you even start dating. Set boundaries and then communicate your boundaries to that person, because those boundaries are there to protect you. And so when you finally learn what domestic violence is, the signs, the manipulation, the things that they say, when you learn that and you know it, then nobody can, you're not going to just let love, you're not going to just say, oh, I just love them so much. But over here, this flag is waving. And I don't even say red flags anymore. I say yellow flag, because the yellow flag is caution. Once you get red, you in it. And now you too fearful to get out of it. So not red flags, yellow flags. Yellow is caution, right? Come on, caution, like you see this, but some people, because Pam, they're so desperate to have a relationship, they're so desperate to have somebody in their life, they will ignore the signs and accept. They know they know the signs, and they know they feel it, and they might not know what to call it, but they know it's not love. But because in their minds, they have this fantasy in their minds of what they want, and they feel like, oh, I'm just gonna love him, so I'm just gonna love him till it's gonna be this fairy tale. Because see, when it's good, it's good. But then it explodes again. And then they come back and say, I'm sorry, and it's good again. It's honeymoon time. That's what we live off of.
Do you deal with data and statistics? Because women or men who are in abusive relationships are the statistics or data say that they were raised into that environment, or is it less, or is it some that have never experienced it in their environment, and they may have people in their family that were abusers that they didn't know about? So is it a gene thing, environmental thing? How does it happen?
No, domestic violence is a choice. I don't think it's a choice, because I know that there are statistics on it, but I'm saying what I've done personally. I've met men, like when I go speak, if I go speak to men, I'll write that number down, and I'll write how many men may come up to me and say, I saw my dad, beat my mom. Okay. But I chose, if I ever got married, I would never treat a woman that way. Then I've met some said, that's what I thought being a man was. That's what I saw my dad do. I have young girls and women that I've met at the colleges and places, and they say, oh, my dad and my mom been married 40 something years, but I just want a thug. I just like about somebody to rough me up because of what they see on TV. And so it's not rather you grew up in it. It's what you choose. What do you choose to do? You choose to lift your hand and beat a woman down. You choose to verbally go for the jugular and call somebody out of their name. You choose to do that. That's what people asking me. Did your husband snap? Did he? I said, well, he'll never get a snap. A snap? You ain't snap. You was talking to me and I was begging you, and you was talking to me. You didn't snap. You heard every word I said. I called out our children's name. You talked about them. So no, he will never get a snap. You didn't snap. You chose to pull the trigger. So we're not going to give him no excuse. No.
Can an abuser be healed?
Yes, if they go get help. They got to really want to get help, and you have to. That's why I just did a workbook. It's called Master Me. And I believe that we have to learn how to master our emotions and master who we are. You're supposed to know your triggers. Like during the winter time, my arm hurts 24/7 from the day I got shot. It has never stopped hurting. Like it hurts all the time. I've gotten to the place now where I've trained my mind not to pay attention to it. But right now, like it throbs all the time. So when wintertime comes, I'm already prepared. I'm already in my mind, know that December is going to get cold. So I'm already in my mind prepared to, you're going to experience some extra pain. You're going to experience something. So I've learned how to manage myself, because if not, Pam, it'll take me back to that day. And then I'll relive it over and over and over again. And that was work though. That's work. And some people just don't want to take time to stop and master themselves. And so I did a workbook, I think a month ago, Mastering Me, because that's what it's about, mastering you. You don't let nobody trigger you if you know your triggers. I'm not giving my power away like that. Yes. I'm not just gonna let you say something and just make me go. No, I've learned to master me. I've learned to master my emotions. That's the most powerful thing that anybody can do. So that's why I tell them, I say, if they come in your life, you're supposed to already be good. When they come in your life, you're supposed to already be good. And if they come, then they're supposed to make it better, enhance it, or be an added, addition to it. But if they decide to leave, you still better be good, because you was good when they came. And that's why young folks, I say, don't need to be in adult situations, teenagers, because you as a teenager, you still have, you don't know, underneath your parents' roof, you still have limitations. You can't hang out like anybody else. You have to learn how to love yourself and know who you are, because they have to understand, no matter how old you are in life, we're still discovering who we are as people. You understand what I'm saying? And so when you love yourself and you are happy with yourself, you can't depend on anybody else to bring you happiness or to love you, because you don't know how to love you. Yeah. And until you know how to love you and make yourself happy, then like you said, if somebody comes in and is not,
I'm not going to say they have to be happy-go-lucky, but if they come in and can just blend in with your atmosphere and your emotions and your feelings and your thought, that's fine. But if something takes it off kilter and off balance, you got to go. And don't be afraid to say it's not working out.
It's not working.
It's not. And that's where we sometimes get it wrong, because a lot of females, I can't speak for men, a lot of females say, well, I've been with him for 2 years. I've been with him for 3 years. Being with somebody in a time frame has nothing
to do with it. Nothing. But if you sit back and look at that time, look at all the energy that you put in, look and see what you've gotten out of it. Look at all your heartbreak. But and that's the truth. We won't do that. We won't take the time to stop and look and really, and I'm not talking about love who you are because you look like you got it all together and you got all the names. I'm about really loving who you are from the inside out.
And and before we move on, we must say, just because he's a good provider and a good daddy or a good mother or a good wife, that don't mean you got to stay in it because they are abusive.
Right. Oh. I mean, it's just, but it is work, and I try to put on workshops and things, but people, we don't want to do the work. We don't, and women really, we don't want to do the work, and it's work.
You know what? But that is a universal broad statement for anything. To lift yourself up to any status you're at, you have to do the work. Pastor Baker often says, you might like where I am now, but you don't know my story of how I got here. And
exactly.
We have to move on so I can get through questions, but I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Yes.
Because it's been a minute since I saw you. This is a 2-part question. The effects of domestic violence to a child, adolescent, young adult, or adult, and the effects of domestic violence to a family unit. Because you said your children are in therapy or still in therapy. So can you explain the effects of domestic violence to an individual, generational age thing, and to a whole family unit?
Yeah, they're not in therapy now, but when it happened, I did take them to therapy because their whole life changed, just like mine. That day they never went to their rooms, never went back to what we called home. And that was a lot. And then daddy realizing, okay, daddy got shot, mama got shot, trying to put all that together. And so can you imagine a child that's living in that? And children take that on. They take that on. Sometimes they'll look and see, oh, that's what a man's supposed to do. And little girls are going, oh, so mama's supposed to do everything daddy say because he's in charge. They take on what they see, right? They take on what they experience. So it really does have an effect on children, and that can make it a generational thing, because if they don't, nobody ever stops and say, hey, that may be happening at home, but that's not normal. That's not a healthy family. That's not normal, but that's why I did the journals, because we don't stop and talk and have. You had a lot of hurting men that's married that are husbands that wounded. They have father wounds because their father wasn't there. So how do you be whole, and now you're gonna have to take care of a whole family, and you never had a model to show you how to take care of a family, be that man, because he wasn't there. And so it just becomes, and that's why people like me that do this kind of work, it goes beyond just getting up and talking about it. It goes beyond that. And these children are going through so much because this is what they see. And now they have somebody coming in telling them that's not love.
And some parents think, because based on how old a child is, that
Right.
they might forget it by the time
Mhm.
they become preteens or adults, but
Right.
they don't, because the
They
older
don't.
we can remember things what we did in elementary school.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
had a man up in New York that cried like a baby. You would have thought he was 4 years old. He remembered when his dad beat his mom and then his dad got their puppy and killed. This man was grown. I know this man he had to be 54, 55. And he sat there and cried like a baby because he was thinking about when he was 4 and his dad ended up killing their mom. And it then killed their puppy. Now, one brother beat his wife, and then the other brother he said to himself that he would never do that. So you had two boys coming out of the same home doing two different things from one, being in one household. But you had two boys going two different directions. One beat his wife, and the other one didn't. And they still both saw the same thing, saw their mom getting beat, and then saw their mom getting killed. But one brother said, I'm not gonna beat nobody. And the other brother did just what his daddy did, beat his wife.
What is the age group what are the ages that are mostly in your groups?
Right now, believe it or not, I've gone down. I was at the college, and then I went to the high schools, and then I went to the middle schools. And last year was my first time going to the elementary school to fifth graders. So fifth graders, the lowest I've gone to, yeah, because of the world and that phone, they see so much and they think that they got to do this. I got to show a picture. I got to show my breasts. I got to show my body if I like him. They get that in fifth grade at the elementary schools.
And right now, I don't know the issue for it, but there's a lot of video influencers, that's what they call it now, women who go on video that are committing suicide. And
Yes.
It's a high rate of it because they do expose themselves in order to get those numbers, in order to get paid to be on Instagram. We have about 20 more minutes. We're going to give me a short synopsis of each of these questions. I just want to get them in. It's just an interesting topic. What are steps a person needs to take who experience domestic violence? What do they need to take in order to get themselves out of it once they leave that home?
They need to, before they leave, they need to reach out to resources, local resources, because normally in a community, they have the resources, they have the help, and they can give you a safe plan. Like, I always tell women, don't go home talking about, oh, I'm getting ready to leave you and you packing up, because that's the most volatile time when they say, oh, you gonna leave me? Oh, okay. You'll leave here dead. And so you got to be smart about it, but you have to, even if you're beginning to say, okay, I'm gonna make me a safety plan, let a friend know if I call you and say something about pizza. When I was thinking about eating pizza tonight, that could be your code that something's going on, and then somebody can call. You have to be proactive. And I know it's fearful, I know it's scary, but there are services out there to help you to make sure you have a safe plan. You don't want to just jump up and tell them, oh, I'm lit. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
We're getting to the bottom of the questions. 3 minutes for each question. The justice system versus domestic violence.
That's longer than 2 minutes. I don't know. I'm gonna say in my time, when it happened to me, they were putting people in jail for marijuana and drugs. They was having no bond. And my ex-husband got a bond and everything and was actually able to go back to work. That was the difference for me. I just could not believe that they was putting people that was robbing the convenience store. I would look in the paper, no bond. But here, this man shot me in my head and shot me 3 times, and y'all gonna give him a bond, and then he can walk around for a year and a half. So I think the system has a lot of more work to do. A lot of when it comes to domestic violence.
And when it comes to women, and
when it comes to women, a lot more, because you can't just pop him on his hand and say, "Don't go back over there."
Mhm.
It,
What
it
would
has to be something more.
what would you now what you know now, what would you have told a younger Valerie back then?
I would have told her to set boundaries, to know herself, to really know herself. And that, and what I know now, that nothing's too hard for me to get through.
Hmm.
That's what I would tell her. Nothing, no matter what she goes through in life, was gonna go through, nothing would be too hard for her to get through.
Are there signs that shows a child could be an abuser?
I think children start out with anger problems. That's what I believe. And they turn, and that child will turn, because then I'm abusive too. If I get a girlfriend at age 13, now that anger is gonna go toward that person because that person say they love me. So we have to really, that we're doing getting ready to do a workshop, and I'm trying to recruit some men now because I think that's something that boys really need help in, that area of what do I do with these emotions? You know, I used to spank my son and my youngest, spank him and then tell him to stop crying. And then one day it hit me like, why am I telling him to stop crying? I just spanked him.
Mhm, mhm.
And so those emotions, if I'm not allowing him to cry and let it out, what is he gonna do with them? And so a lot of times we put so much pressure on boys to hold back their feelings, hold back their emotions, hold back their tears. You can't express this. You're a little punk. And now it explodes. So when they explode, what happens?
And I tell females, you do not raise your sons different than you raise your daughters, because they need love too. You know, they think, you know, it's just the way they raise them, because we give all the tools to our daughters for her to be self-sufficient when she gets married, when she goes out on her own. But we don't give enough tools to our sons, and we have to get away from that old saying that just because there's not a father in the house that a woman can't raise a boy. Because boy, just like we hug our daughters, our sons need to be hugged. Say I love you and be hugged. Has domestic violence decreased or increased since you've been an advocate? And now I know about the pandemic, you know, people being stuck and things.
Even with Pam, even without the pandemic, it increased, and especially with teens. There's 1.5 million teens a year that goes through teen dating violence. 1 out of every 7 women, every 9 seconds since we've been on here, a woman is being abused. Every 9 seconds. Okay. You have 1 out of every 3 girls. So every 3 girls you see together walking down the street, one of them will or have been abused in some abusive relationship. You have 1 out of every 7 boys that's been in some kind of abusive relationship. It's increasing. It's getting worse. That age 16 to 24 is the worst age. Here in Georgia, we're #1 in the nation, and we have been for years. So yes, there's a problem because unhealthy relationships are becoming the norm.
Do you have a hotline number for domestic violence? Can you say it right now?
I don't have a hotline number, but the national hotline number, I think, is 1-887-739-SAFE. And if I'm wrong, you can just look up National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Tell people real quickly how they can purchase your brands.
They can go to www.valerielwilliams.org. www.valerielwilliams.org. And if they are interested in subscribing to Love Smart or being a part of Love Smart, if they're local, want to donate to Love Smart, they can go to www.lovesmartinc.org.
I had 3 more questions real quick.
Okay.
2 minutes. What is next for Valerie Williams?
As I said, I'm really praying for a center for Love Smart. We're going to be doing a lot more events. We're going to try to do a teen dating domestic violence walk. And hopefully when COVID go down, we can get back over to the Bahamas and get back over there to our babies over there.
What is your favorite scripture, phrase, or testimony that keeps you grounded?
My number one scripture is Psalms 27. The Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? I was praying on that for 3 months before I got shot. And it told me that the enemy would come up against me, but he would not. He would have to flee. And I actually lived that day I got shot.
So you just had something to overcome you that had you saying that scripture 3 months prior to. What wisdom or advice do you want to give the listening and viewing audience?
This is a phrase that I always say. We have to be very careful who we allow in our lives. And I always say every relationship has to be purposeful before it's personal. If there's not a purpose, I don't know why you have a person in your life. You cannot come in my life if it doesn't have we have to have a purpose. God has to put you in my life for a purpose, and I need to put yours in, he's put me in your life for a purpose. And that's to make something better, to grow something, to work together, to help somebody. But just to be in my life, just for us to be together and have sex and just be drinking and that. So personal, purposeful before personal. Purposeful before personal.
And always remember to love smart. And on that
Yes.
note, you have it. You heard it here today from our local Brunswick native, Miss Valerie Williams. Have a blessed Thanksgiving. God has kept you for a reason. Thank you. It's a blessing to know you. Hope to see you again soon. Have a blessed
Thank you so
weekend.
much, Pam. Have a blessed week. Have a blessed holiday too.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.